Hey guys, Xaryu here, and today I had the chance to play some more Ellie Shaman, Boomkin, Holy Paladin with Reno Pie and Ron Paul here on Dalaran Arena. We are fighting a Shadow Priest, a Demonology Warlock, and a Resto Shaman. Getting a little better at the Moonkin, learning a couple things. One thing I actually did learn after playing this was that a good strategy for casting, since you do get interrupted quite a bit as a Moonkin, is casting your moons, and if you get kicked, casting Cyclone, and vice versa, kind of casting them back and forth since they're not on the same tree. This is not something I knew. I think I actually read this down below in the comments, so you guys are actually teaching me a little bit about Moonkin, but that's something I'm definitely going to try out in the next session. So just constantly casting Clone or Moon, and then besides that, you're just Moon firing a lot, you're Sun firing a lot, and you're using your instant cast Lunar Strikes a lot, right? So between all of these things, all of a sudden that starts to become a huge threat, and then when you want to burst, you get some CC, and then you Star Surge. So that's kind of what I want to keep in mind when I'm playing Moonkin. Right here, I'm just still not using the moons quite enough, and the reason is because every time I try to moon, I get line of sighted, I get kicked, it's just kind of hard. So here's, there's a moon, and then I get mind controlled, or I go for another moon, and then I get line of sight, I go for another moon, I get kicked. So there is a full moon that does land. Pretty happy about that one. When I can get those full moons off, I'm like, finally got one off. But basically, if I can bait kicks with the moons, then I can free cast clones. And if I can bait the kick on the clone, I can free cast the moons. So that's what I want to start keeping in mind as I'm playing more and more of my Moonkin. But against this team, guys, what we're doing is just shutting down the Shadow Priest. That's literally our goal, is just to line of sight every vampiric touch, make sure the Shadow Priest hates his life, make sure he's just can't play the game. And if we're doing that, we're not gonna die to a solo Demonology Warlock. And Shadow Priest really need to free cast, get those vampiric touches off if they want to spread pressure. So notice my positioning the entire game, and notice my Shaman's positioning the entire game. It's very important, making sure the vampiric touches don't go out for free. That's what we say in our games. No free vampiric touches, right? Like, we're not going to just let him cast onto us. We're going to make it very difficult. And the reason we can do this, guys, is because Ellie Shamans have Flame Shock. They have these instant cast Lava Bursts. They have a lot of instant cast damage, or like Stormkeeper, they can channel, and then, or they can cast it behind a pillar, then boom, instant cast Chain Lightnings. But basically, I can instant cast with my Moonfire and Sunfire. He can instant cast with his Flame Shock, Lava Bursts, some of those Chain Lightnings. If we can just instant cast and keep line of sighting, and the Shadow Priest is kind of just not really getting any vampiric touches off, guess what? We're going to win as the game goes deeper and deeper into dampening, and as, the healers and mana pools get lower and lower, it's just going to be harder to heal through our damage, because guess what? We're going to just get more damage off. Now, the Demonology Warlock is definitely a threat. He's definitely going to do a lot of that spread pressure, even instant cast, but he's not going to be able to take us down solo without that priest. We're getting enough pressure where they have to actually run away from the pillar, and once they're out in the open, that's when we can start really just doing whatever we want. And whenever they cast on us, boom, slide around the pillar. Slide around the pillar, line of sight, cast on them in the open. So this is actually great positioning for us. Shaman pushes in a little bit. He does have to wall because that Mind Bomb came off, the silence went off, and now they're starting to get a little bit more pressure off. So I'm playing nice and safe right on the pillar, making sure, once again, no vampiric touches will really come off and hit me. If I was this priest, I would be raging. Sky Fury Totem comes down. We do kill it immediately. And honestly, guys, when I'm on my priest and this is happening to me where I can't get any spread pressure out, I personally believe the best strategy is to not really cast Vampiric Touch. And that might sound really weird, but what I do is just Shadow Word Pain, Shadow Word Pain, Shadow Word Pain everywhere, and then just throw out my instant cast Mind Blast, Void Eruption, instant cast Void Bolts, Shadow Word Deaths, more Pains, more Mind Blasts, more Void Bolts, and kind of just make an instant cast rotation out of your Shadow Priest when you can't really get those casts off. Now here, as the Priest pushes in, he does get some dots out. I'm Vampiric Touched, and the Pally is as well, so it's a little unfortunate, but if we're lining him more and more, that's really what I would do in his position. But look at this, guys. Full Moon coming out on the Shaman. Shaman's getting very low. He's also low on mana, so this is looking terrible for the enemy team. My Paladin has us all topped off. Paladin still have mana. We still have some defensive cooldowns if we need them. The Mind Bomb does come out onto my Shaman, though, and I really just have everything available. I still, guys, the Moons is something I need to work on. Moons and Cyclone, next time I play, I'm really going to be focusing on casting either moons or casting cyclones back and forth a lot of the times, instead of just casting nothing or just refreshing dots, something like that. It's really what I can focus on. Priest is getting out some damage here, but it doesn't look too bad. I see the Shaman's going for a drink. I immediately displace your beast across the map, stop that drink, throw him into a bash, doing a little damage into him. I maybe could have just even cloned him there and killed the Priest. That knock back is going to knock the Shaman into the corner. Now their entire enemy team is just, Shaman's they have no defensive cooldowns pretty much. Link goes out, Dispersion comes out, Wall comes out. They're using everything they can to survive, but at this point there's just too much spread pressure, and this is really just where our grasp is just going to close on into them. And Shaman used this as well. Priest has no Dispersion, throwing some damage on the Priest, and he just goes down. So finally we do take them out. Not a bad game there. Control V is learning the ropes as far as, when I can move, mobility, playing defensively, kind of learning and understanding Boomkin a little bit more. But I think once I tie in the moons, the clones, constantly casting something, and then tie that in with everything I've already learned, I'm going to be doing a lot better. But as you look at this damage breakdown, the Shadow Priest is actually very low, half the damage or less than half the damage of the Warlock. Warlock did a ton of damage, and then the Boomkin and the Ellie Shaman damage is somewhere in between. But since we did more overall pressure because the Shadow Priest could not really do much at all, we did come out ahead. And here's another match on Dalaran Arena. This map is definitely not my favorite map in the game. It's not my least favorite, but since it's so small, it's really difficult to kite a lot of the times. It's the line of sight is so tight, so like playing this map on my Frost Mage gives me a headache. I like playing it on Tolvaron or Nagrand, kind of like an open area. I know Moonkin, it's not too bad though, because I like the pillars just kind of hanging out around the pillars. Looks like the Priest wants to come in for a fear here, and on this map they're actually training down the Ellie Shaman, which leaves me to be able to really do a lot of peeling. So I clone the Feral half, and then switch over the clone to the Priest. Feral does get pet sacrifice from the Hunter, and here's where the Ellie Shaman damage starts coming out. The Flame Shocks start taking their toll, all the Moonfires, Sunfires start taking their toll, and then we get the Chain Lightnings, the Earthquake. The enemy team is rotting down a little bit, but the goal here, we usually like to kill Hunter against this team, and we'll CC the Priest. But really, any of the three can die based on, just how they're playing, right? If the Feral is constantly just pushing in, overextending, doesn't use his walls, he's not going bare form, we could kill him. If the Priest isn't topping himself off and he's kind of letting himself rot a little bit, if he is playing Vim, if he has no Trinket Pain stuff, we can literally just kill him in a Bash Hoj or a Hoj Bash Beam, and the Priest just goes down. So it's you want to keep your eyes open for that, but what we normally kill against this, or what we normally keep in mind, is the Hunter as the primary kill target. He does feign death that full moon there. Little unfortunate, but that's going to be okay. We are stacked up, and that's on purpose, like I was talking about yesterday, so they can't get too much cleave to break those fears or those traps. But what kind of does suck is that we are getting triple feared quite a bit. I throw out the beam there for a second on the Priest. Probably not the best beam, should have waited until he was casting. Throwing out some more Cyclones though, so clone the Hunter. So like a lot of the times against this, to keep my team alive, since they're not focusing me, I either want to clone the Hunter and go Feral, clone the Feral and go Hunter, clone the Priest and go Hunter, and then constantly kind of rotate that based on clone DR, so that there's no time where nothing is Cyclone and they're all three just ganging up. So like right here, I should probably be casting a Cyclone on the Feral Druid. Wow, look at that timing. Control V, legendary, I know. But even before I said that, I could have been casting that Cyclone a little bit sooner, getting out that control, right? Because a big part of Boomkin is that control, just like Mage, with the Mage and the Polymorphs, you want to keep the enemy team controlled. What's nice about Cyclone, though, is it doesn't stop, doesn't heal the target, right? So you can constantly just be throwing out a clone with really almost no downside. The target can't be hit, but keeping them Cyclone low, they can't be healed. So Cyclone on a low target's good, Cyclone on a high target's good. Cyclone is just a good ability. So keeping that Cyclone rotated on one of the three most of the game is really what we want to be focusing on here. It's like even right here, we have some CC on the Priest, and we had the Bash on to the Hunter, so trying to get that full moon out, definitely a good strategy here. Priest does get Hojed up full, does trinket it. Hunter's pet dies, he's trying to revive the pet, but look at this rot damage, guys. There's no way the Priest is gonna be able to heal through this too much longer. Hunter is getting low, Priest is getting low, Feral's getting low. This is what I'm talking about when I say any of the three can really die as this game goes on. Like, we like killing Hunter, but look at the Priest right here. Priest is getting extremely low. If we can just get another stun, a knockback, a Hodge, something like that, Priest is just going to go down. But if the Priest is line of sighting too much and he's just playing super defensive, then we can start hitting the Hunter and it's like free CC. If the Priest is running, guys, he's CCing himself, which allows us to swap to another target. We don't want to just chase too much unless we know we can get the kill. All right, so keeping up consistent damage, all damage is good damage, is definitely very relevant here. That's one of the things that we talk about while playing this comp. We get a stun on the Priest, Hunter's getting very low, and the Hunter does go down. But that's our damage just starts to take a toll, and as you guys see in the first minute or two of a game, we usually don't get too much done, but then as our dots start settling in, as you know, we get that CC, and then we just start crushing the enemies, and that's really the strength of this team. Keep the game controlled, let the game go into dampening a little bit, control the game with those cyclones, and then as the game goes on, you're definitely going to win. What's been very hard for us to beat and what we've been losing to is like Warlock, Shaman, Warrior, like WLS or like Windwalker LS, something like that, which we don't fight too much of, so it's good, but that's been very difficult for us to take down because they're the same way, right? They're just trying to control the game and take it to dampening, but then when you have the Mortal Strike effect and the, you know, dampening kicking in, it's very difficult for us to come back. But look at the damage breakdown here in this game, guys. We are just crushing the damage. 58 million, 43 million, the 41, and the 19. So the Hunter could not do much, and that's because the Hunter had to spam line of sight. Guys, if you're enjoying this Boomkin gameplay, make sure to thumbs the video up. I'm a new Boomkin. I'm learning through it. I'm working out all the kinks. I'm trying to figure out the best way I can play the class. Definitely loving Ellie, Shaman, Boomkin at HPAL. Definitely want to try some Boomkin Rogue with my friend Rodak as well. That should be a good time. Guys, thumbs the video down if you didn't like it. Talk to me in the comments about what you guys want to see for next time. I definitely do read all of those comments. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.